Okay, so thank you to James for inviting me to give a presentation today to Riverside County Law Library on the LLMC database. So it's going to be an introduction and overview to the database. And a big reason for that is because we rolled out a new interface in May of 2025. So there's a lot of changes. The content is pretty much the same, but a lot of new changes to the interface. And my name is Mostad-Jensen. I'm the Director of Collection Development and Outreach. I've been with LLMC for almost 6 months, so it's still a little bit new to me, but I'm happy to be here and giving this presentation. So I think a lot of people who are reviewing this video might be familiar with LLMC, but for those who aren't, LLMC is a nonprofit that digitizes and physically preserves historical, legal, and government documents and makes them available in our database. So we work on it's a member-based organization, and one of the main benefits of being a member of LLMC is access to the database where we put those materials in that we have digitized. We also physically preserve those materials in salt mines in Kansas, many of those. And again, we partner with our members, which are mostly libraries and other related institutions, including Riverside, to build this digital archive. So if people are removing physical items but still want them preserved from their libraries, then we help preserve and digitize those. And sometimes they are specifically donated because they want to expand access to those items through digitizations. So the resource is mostly dealing with government documents that don't have copyright and items that are out of copyright. And it especially serves as a good resource for legal professionals, historians, and scholars. And I'll talk about some of those use cases as we go through. So moving on. Just to give you a little bit more of the history of LLMC, as we are celebrating our 50th anniversary as a nonprofit organization. So we were founded in 1976 in Hawaii, and then we started out by putting print items on microfiche and then selling that microfiche back to the members. And then we heard about this internet thing. And so we were like, it looks like it's sticking around, and this is a good format for sharing access to information. So in 2003, we put materials into a database. And then in 2018, we moved to Minnesota. And as a Minnesota native, I was very happy to see this move because I've always been very interested in the work of LLMC as a nonprofit, but as somebody from Minnesota, I have a hard time with hot weather. So, and just to give you an idea, today the temperature is 22 degrees Celsius, and we're going to go to -9 on Friday, and I am enjoying this very much. So, and then one of the big reasons, again, we already discussed this a little bit, is the reason I'm here is we had a new database interface that launched in May of 2025, and we're still working on communicating some of those changes with our members and helping them get more familiar with those resources. So with that, a little bit about our agenda today. So the first point is going to be PowerPoint based. We're going to kind of give an overview of the new website layout, and then we'll go through some of those updates. So the overview of the new website layout is going to be mostly in PowerPoint format. And then we're going to go live and show some of the more California specific resources and use that to talk about some of the latest enhancements we've had to the database. I'm also at the end going to point out some of the California specific resources and kind of the ranges that we have with that. And at the end, I'll take any questions that might be out there, but I just would say that you can always reach out to me with any questions you have about LLMC. And we're a pretty small organization. There's 4.5 of us. And so if you're sending an email to myself, I'll be one of the main people. And if you send an email to LLMC at llmc.com, and try to get this right here as I put it in the chat, then these are two main emails for contacting us with any questions you might have. So with that, let's talk about kind of the new interface a little bit and what you will see and how it might compare to the older version. Okay, make sure. Okay, so this is what you will see. The image here on the left is what you'll see when you get into the LLMC database. So part of the intention of moving to the new database interface was to try to create a more streamlined and intuitive experience. So now you can more easily discover the full content of the database, in particular to know kind of the distribution and density of the content by some different manners. So through geographic manner, or chronological, content genre, language, and our special focus collections. So, okay, you'll see in the blue, it's kind of the information about our database in quantified terms. So you're going to see the number of countries represented, the number of items. On the left, you're going to see filtering by category. In the bottom right, you're going to see that we have a geographic organization and special focus collections. And then we also, in the yellow area, you have kind of what did I say? The content ones were in blue, the types, those different breakups. And then in the yellow, you kind of have a visualization of the different materials. So in the top left, you have a date distribution, and then you also have a map. And if you zoom in on the map, you'll see the number of items per country. And so this, most of the time that's going to be something that if you're just browsing with that global interaction, if you're looking for a specific jurisdiction at the national or state level. So, and I find that something that's kind of interesting if you have like a lunch break or you just want to dig into something randomly, you can kind of zoom in on the map and come across something interesting. Okay, a little bit more about the browsing and organization. So the database has four main levels. We have the main level or homepage, which is what we just looked at. We also have a level of landing pages, and we have those at the country level, at the special focus collection level, and at the title level. And we'll go through this a little bit. We also have a document viewing page, and this is where you're going to be looking at kind of at a single PDF image from a source document that you're looking at. And then finally, you have a My Account page, and this is where you can organize some of your materials. And the My Account page, this is actually, it's optional. If you don't have an account, you can, I think, download 50 pages without having an account. And if you have an account, it increases the number of pages you can download or export. You can also organize your results in your My Account. So if you're looking at specific topics, then you can keep lists that you can organize by topic, and you can just keep those in there, or you can share them with other people or maneuver them around. One thing that's good about the My Account page is you only need an email address and a password to sign up for it. You don't need to include your name, and you don't need to use an institutional email address. So it's not like you have to have a Riverside County Law Library email address. You can use a Gmail account, Hotmail account, another account. Let's say you're at a university, you can use your university email address. Whichever address you would like to use, you can use it for that purpose. And I'll discuss that in a little bit more detail coming up. But let's kind of go through these one by one just to give you an idea of what's in there. Okay, so first we have that main page that we already looked at in a little bit. But this main page, homepage, gives you an overview of the database's content. And from this page, you can see all content that is relevant to a given country or region. That is items that either originate from that country in question or whose content is about the given country, wholly or in part, as is determined by the catalogers at LLMC. So you can filter this list to discover content, and we'll go through some of that filtering, those filtering and search features in more depth during the live part of the presentation. But this is just to give you a brief overview. Okay. Again, on the main page, there are some ways that you can filter on the main page, and those are by time period, category, language, or country. And again, you can also click on that interactive map to find results, which we discussed in a little bit. So let's say you were interested in a particular country. So let's say we clicked on Australia and Oceania, and then we clicked on Kiribati. You'll see that they have their own landing page. So on that landing page for a specific country, you will see all the content that is relevant to that country. And again, these are either items that originate from that country or whose content is about that country wholly or in part is determined by the catalogers. And you can filter this list and also search within the country in question. So you'll see at the bottom there, you can see that the search box is highlighted. And again, we'll review that a little bit more in the live section. So we've looked at the main page. Now we've seen the country landing pages. And then another page we have is special focus collections. So, and we have a tab that has special focus collections. And if you click on that, it's to the right of the geographic tab, which we'll look at again in the live demonstration. So once you click on special focus collections, you'll see an alphabetical list of those collections. And if you click on one of those collections, such as the Yale Blackstone collection, you will see a landing page for that collection. And then you'll have those facet filters on the side, so you can organize based on language, etc. And those will appear on the left side of the screen. That might change a little bit depending on what kind of screen you're using. If you're on mobile or on a iPad or something like that, it might look a little bit different. And again, the search feature tends to will follow the collection. So you can also search this collection either by content at the top of the page or by title. And again, we'll look at that in the live session a little bit more. So then we have title landing pages. So each LLMC title has its own landing page. So you can see all the individual volumes in that title. You can use the hot list to type out a specific title if they have titles. And you can also put filters on there and you can search within that title. So the final type of viewing page we have, and actually I think we're going to have the My Account page too. So we have the document viewing page, and this is if you were to click in on a volume, then you're going to get the actual item level. You're going to get a document viewing page. And you can see that you have some different features. So if you were to click on the expand details at the top left, you will see all the metadata at the top of the document. And we'll see that on the next screen, I believe. And you can also look at the thumbnails of the different images of the documents. It also has page tags for many documents, which will provide a more detailed page list than the regular Pages tab. So for example, in the page tags, it will give you a table of contents, and then it will say, then there's an index at the end. So that's not the actual page number. And then it will have the actual page numbers. And in the legal environment, that can be very important because oftentimes there might be 20 pages at the beginning of a book before the actual page starts. So you don't have to do that math of figuring out where page 124 is that you have from a citation. You can get right to that page number using the page tags. You can also search within this item, within this particular PDF. So again, as I talked about, if you click on expand details, you can see the metadata for the item. So that's going to tell you what volume you're in, what subject areas, the collection, the language, a description of the item, and the LLMC number. So this is kind of useful if you want to kind of give yourself a little bit more overview of the item you're in. Now going here, you can see it's highlighting the page thumbnails, so you can kind of look through things visually. Sometimes this will help you see where the table of contents is, and sometimes you want the table of contents can be easier to use. The table of contents or like the index that you can visually see might be easier to use for searching than it is to do a keyword search, because it might actually lead you to what you're looking for more quickly. Talking about page tags, as you can see here, it shows an acknowledgement page, miscellaneous, and tables. So if you were looking for page 24, or well, actually, let's say page 17, and here on this page tag, you know that the actual 17th picture in this item is actually a table. And if you keep scrolling down, it will start with the page numbers, and you could go directly to the correct page number. And again, we'll try to look at this a little bit more in the live part of the session. So you can also search within this document in particular. So if you have a particular keyword that you're looking for, you can search there. And here's some of the tools you can use to maneuver around the document page. And so you can use the little left to right arrows to go from one page to the next. You can use the magnifying glass of plus and minus to zoom in and out. The hand will let you move the page around a little bit. The scissors is actually very useful, especially for multilingual content, because it will allow you to take a screenshot of the image, and you can choose to either take a screenshot of the image and the text, or just the text. So we have a lot of non-English language content, and if you're not a speaker of that language, you could use this tool to copy the text and paste it into something like Google Translate. Now, of course, we do have OCR text, but of course, the quality of the OCR sometimes depends on the underlying image. So it does vary a little bit, but it is quite good, especially if it was a good print copy. And it can be used, even if there's a couple of words that are incorrect, you can often figure out what it is and make small changes to make that work. And then you can go full screen, you can rotate the item, and you can change the views of the width of the item as well. Then we have the My Account page, and I was talking about this before, where this is an optional thing to do, but the My Account allows you to manage your personal search history, any saved lists you have of items you want to make sure you don't lose, and you can update your password and your email address here as well. And again, the advantage is you can save your items, you can download or print more pages, and you do not have to include, you can use any email address and password. You don't need to use an institutional one if you don't. You can use a personal one. And again, it is optional. So just as a reminder overall that you can search at many different levels, from on the main page to at the country, title, volume, and document page. So you have both basic and advanced search functions and facet filters and Boolean tools that can be used from any page. So this is really nice. And just know that if you do have filtering and you do search from the box at the top, that it will, it is taking into account those facets, filters that you have put on. So if you have limited your search to California, and then you put a search term in the search box, it's only going to search for items that are related to California. So let's keep moving. This is the main search box. So you can enter the search items in the search box to launch a search. And because it's at the front page, you're going to be searching the entire database. So here's the search button. And let's use an example of commerce. And we'll click on the search button. And once you do that, it will take us to a search results page. And here we can see the total number of hits. And then there'll also be a contextual preview of matches, including a thumbnail of the matching volume and a snippet showing the match in context. You can also click to see all results in the volume by clicking on see all results in this volume. And you can see here that related to the term commerce, we have 97,634 volumes that include the term commerce, with over 3 million pages that have that term on it. So, and just to kind of further describe this page and what the search result page would look like, on the left we have facet filters. So you could narrow your search by country, state, province, territory, category, time period. And with a search result that has that many results, you would often either want to add to your search to narrow it, or narrow it using these filters. And these filters can narrow it surprisingly fast. So we're going to narrow the results first, just to show you some of the ways you can do so. First, we're going to narrow it by language. So we're going to click on English. And then in addition to the language facet, we will also click on the country facet and click on Canada and Alberta under the state, province, territory facet, and legislative under the category facet. Now you could do the same with different jurisdictions that you're interested in, but this is just an example to give you an idea of how it works. So now we get the results of selecting the language facet. And let's say the first match catches our interest, which is the 1972 session laws of Alberta. And it's funny how oftentimes you're just like, oh, the first result seems like something relevant to look at. But, you know, especially with the keyword search, you can get to stuff fairly quickly. But this is more of just an exploratory example. So we're going to click on see all results in the volume. And then we are on that document view page view with the search results for commerce. And you can see that the search term is appearing on the left in kind of that neon turquoise bluish color. So we could kind of click on each of these to see if it's relevant, but let's click on page 202, and you can kind of see that there's like a preview there of the material. So that could give you some context for knowing which one you might want to click on. At this point, you could also look at the page level and look for a table of contents or an index to help you with your search, or do a search for keywords as well. So we've clicked on that document, page 202, and we can see the commerce text matching in the actual page here, which is nice visually for it to come out and for you to be able to see. So, and from this point, you could do some different things. You could view the document in full screen mode, browse the page thumbnails. If this was not quite what you were looking for, but you think you're in the right place generally, you could browse the page tags if you're looking for a specific page number within this text. You could see the full description and metadata for this document by expanding the details at the top. You could save, print, or share, or cite the content. You could make the custom snippets, including that OCR text and the image, using the scissors, etc. So that's kind of what you can do there. Okay, So let's go back just a little bit looking at our search results. We can also add documents to private lists to work with later. To do this, we would simply click on the plus icon of one or more of the documents of interest. And if we've already registered for a free personal account, we're prompted to select the list that we would like to add the document to, or create a new list or new account. And if we don't have a personal account, you would be prompted to create one. And then you as a user would set up a password and email address for the account, and then you'd get an account activation email for that email address. And again, it doesn't have to be an institutional email, it can also be a personal email. Items can also be added within the document on the document viewing page by clicking on the plus icon there. And we'll take a little bit of a look at that, hopefully in the live session as well. Okay, let's take a quick look at the advanced search. So we're back at the main page, and we're going to click on the magnifying glass with the plus sign in it. So, and this will give us the different advanced search options. So when you click on it, you'll see the advanced search, some guidance on the Boolean operators. If you want more comprehensive search options, you can click on the More button, and that will give you more search tips such as proximity searching. You can also specify which search fields will be searched, such as title, author, or the LLMC number. And I see on here, I didn't update this slide, but attribution, we've switched that, I believe, to author, and attribution just meant author or issuing organizations. Now, if you have longtime users of the database and they're struggling with using this new interface and they have old documents that they've used, one thing you might want to do is doing an advanced search using the LLMC number. So if you have a link to the old database, often like the endpoint will be a number, and it'll be, I think, like 5 or 6 digits. And that will be the LLMC number. So if they're having trouble finding it in the new database, then you could come to the advanced search. You can click on the LLMC number radio, and then you can put in that number from the link. Not the whole link, just the number at the end of it. So one other thing we have, and we have some of these for California, is we have court filings or briefs and records for different jurisdictions. So we have some from the Supreme Court, U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit, California, Illinois, Michigan, New York, and Pennsylvania. So to get to them, you would click on United States under the Geographic tab, and then you'll get 2 tabs again, one that is items and one is court filings, and you would click on the court filings tab. So, and then you would click on the jurisdiction. So if we were to click on California as a jurisdiction, we would arrive at its landing page. And there's different metadata available for different jurisdictions, and search options are available depending on which metadata we have. So if there are records and briefs for multiple courts in a jurisdiction, you can narrow your search by court. So yes, so we do have some California records and briefs. If we were to look at searching within court filings, let's say we did a search with the combination of harmful and pesticides in California. Then you could click on that, and you can also narrow by court and brief type on the left-hand side. You can see those showing up there. And again, with these, you can also save them to lists, cite them. Although I wouldn't trust the citation, as you know how it always is. It's nice to have the option to cite, but legal citation styles are very picky. So you can also download and print as well. So a couple of other things to point out is at the top of every page, you can also click on the question mark to find our help section. And if a question is not answered in the help section, you can reach out to us for assistance. And again, at LLMC@LLMC.com, or my name, ANNE, @LLMC.com. Okay, you can also find more about LLMC on our webpage. So we have kind of a main overview page, and then we have a database page. And that's at the top of the database, where you can just click on About LLMC. So here I just have kind of a resource page that is pulling out some of the main California resources that we have. And I'll show you also how you can pull those out and review those and find those within the database when we go into the live session in just a minute. But just to give you a moment to see them, some of the main ones on this page. So we have Attorney General reports from kind of the historical ones. We have the California session laws from 1849 to 2000, advanced sheets of the session laws from 1998 to 2009, various codes, the 1814 Convention of Delegates, and the 1849 and 1879 conventions, Journal of Convention and report of the debates in the convention from 1849, and then the debates and proceedings of the 1880-81 Constitution Convention. So I'm assuming that's to the 1879 convention, but they were probably printed in 80-81. Multiple constitutions from indigenous nations and communities, various court reports, kind of historical ones, House and Senate journals from 1849 to, I believe, 1986 for House, and then Senate 1849 to 1988. Then we have some California records and briefs and early state records, which has some California collections. So that's kind of pre-colonial, colonial, and early state history materials. It's a little bit more focused, I think, on the East Coast, but there are still some in California, and of course, more miscellaneous ones as well. Okay, so now I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and just take a moment if there are any questions, and I'll take a little breather, and then I'm going to share my screen with the live database. So just give me a moment, and if there are any questions, you can ask them now. But
Yeah.
yep.
Just
Did you?
one. Oh, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So just one question about the searching. So does LLMC have like a tool or any resource that would help with kind of finding the right keywords for searching? Do you have to be precise with the searching, or does it support natural language searching as well?
That's a good question. I'm gonna follow up on it because I feel like I could guess what it is, but I don't formally know. Right?
Okay.
Does that make sense? It's like
Yeah.
I think the search is uh so could you phrase your question again just so I can make sure I'm understanding it correctly and see if I can give you the right answer based on my perception of what it is? Just one more time, just so I can make sure I'm approaching it correctly.
Yeah. So in database searching, sometimes, well, some databases have gotten better at it, but a lot of times you have to be pretty precise with the keywords you're using or phrases that you use in order to bring
Mm,
up like the documents you're trying to find.
mm,
Uh, so for example, missing like a letter or maybe like a synonym for a different
mm.
word. Is there a resource that kind of helps with that?
I think you have to be fairly precise in this database. But I would say more towards precise than not precise. But I'll ask for clarification on that and get back to you if that answer is different.
Okay, sure. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay. But I will say the one thing that is a big advantage here is like just the number of documents that are OCR'd that are historical is kind of useful. But I see what you're saying. I think that is a good point. And one thing that helps a little bit is having that title level information that gives a little bit more context to the search. But yeah, compared to a search like Google, I think it's gonna require more precise language than that, if that makes any sense. But this is something that's a really good question, and it's something I'm gonna ask for additional clarification on. So
Okay.
thank you for that. I love when I
Yeah.
get questions like that.
Thank you.
So yeah.
And then one more general question is,
Mhm,
so for because LLMC has documents across the world, is the
mhm.
tagging and the keyword searching done in that language of the country?
So it it the OCRing is
Hmm.
supposed to be done in the language of that country.
Okay.
The tagging, the people doing the tagging, I think are doing it based on visual kind of understanding of the information, because the tagging we have kind of very specific categories that we tag in, and a
Mhm.
lot of those don't require as much language expertise, right? Because the interface is in English, like the selection tools. So page tags, page one, page two, page three. Most of those are in English, right? So, and the page tags are going to be like, based on this, my perception is this is a title page, even if it's in Arabic, right? This is an
Mhm.
index page, even if it's in German. Does that make sense? So the descriptive language there is going to be, I believe, in English, but the underlying OCRing is supposed to be in the source language. Now, there are a couple of exceptions with that, and that's particularly with manuscripts. So if you see an item that has MS in parentheses, then that is a manuscript, and most of the manuscripts, a lot of the manuscripts are coming from microfiche. So you take the fact that it's handwritten, combine it with the fact that it's microfiche, that there will likely not be much OCRing, and then if at all, and then those aren't page tagged. And we didn't do page tagging throughout our entire history. We only did that through part of the more recent ones. Like it's been going on for quite some time, but if you're talking, we're 50 years old, so it hasn't been page tagging all of that time. So it's kind of
Okay.
backlog. But I think we might be exploring using AI to do some page tagging in the future to see how that works. Does that,
Okay.
does that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers
Yeah,
it pretty well.
yeah,
Because just in terms of searching for documents again,
yeah,
I just wanted like some advice or guidance on how to go
yeah,
about finding, say, like a foreign document
yeah,
that may be in a different language.
yeah. And the other thing I would point out, and I'll try to show an example when we're looking in the actual database, is, and let me actually just share the screen too. Okay, one moment. I'm gonna switch to sharing the database page. Can you see the database now?
Yes.
Okay. So one thing I would stress that I meant to say when we were looking at the advanced search, a description of it, is so you can search by title. And one thing I would say is, because we started out in microfiche, and in microfiche, you were limited in the number of characters that you could put in a title because it's a physically limiting space. So some of the titles we have in the database are still from that historical microfiche collection, and the title might be abbreviated. So that would be the one thing I would say with titles. There are a couple instances, and we're kind of retroactively going back and changing those titles, from the abbreviated format that was on microfiche to its full standard title. So that's something that's kind of unique and good to know about if you're searching the database, that you might be used to a slightly different title from it than what you see in here. what I would say with that is if you're using a title repeatedly and you think that this is a high use title for your users that you think should be changed, that's something that you can reach out to us and say, like, I think this one should be updated or expedited for updating. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So now we are live. From your perception, do you think this is zoomed in enough, or do you think it would be beneficial to zoom in one more uh, to see things?
I think one more time.
Okay,
Yeah, just a little more.
okay. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we already kind of looked a little bit at the structure, but now let's go into just uh, some of the items that you might be most interested in, and then just kind of a quick review of what we discussed already in the PowerPoint slides. So one thing I always say for people, because we're accessing in a lot of different ways from different locations, and the LLMC database has both open access and content, and then also content that's only available to members when they're logged in or using an IP address in a specific space. So if you're ever wondering if you have the access that you should have, you should look at the total countries and it should be like approximately 196. That might go up, it varies. But if you are seeing less countries than that, let's say around 30 or 40, then your access might not be what it should be. So that might mean that you're not like signed in through an authenticator through your institution, or you might be outside the IP range. So that's something I always say to users is, or patrons, if you see this and it's only 30 countries, you're only looking at our open access content. So again, here you have that geographic filter. You have the special focus collection filter, and you can expand these. So if you click on the geographic region, then you can expand and see particular countries. So I think what many people will be interested in is the United States materials and California specifically. So again, let's look, you got geographic and you have special focus collections. Uh, so if we go to the United States, and now over here, we could narrow by state, province, and territory. To get to California, we'd click on 66 more. We would click on California, and then you get a list of only California items. Now, some people, you might get questions, or people might wonder what materials we have in here. If you ever want a list for a jurisdiction, see, we have it on California. We're in the United States, but we have it limited to California. If you download this title list, this will show you what we have for California. You can also, this is a hot list. So if you start typing, you can get by title, you can get the specific items. So if you know the title, you can click on it. Now this expands right now. I think it shouldn't. I've communicated that to our developers. So it may be changed, it will likely be changed at some point. But we kind of have an ongoing list for our developers to be updating and changing stuff. So just be aware of that there's always updates that are being made. If you ever see something that you're like, oh, I think this is an area for improvement, feel free to reach out to us and let us know what your suggestion is for that, because we are member driven. We're not a for-profit company kind of pushing things our own way. It's like if our members have ideas, we like to listen to them. We're pretty small, so it may take us a while to respond, but we do want to respond to those requests. So if you knew your specific title, you could go to that. if you see an item, you can do browsing here. If you see an item, and I'm gonna just right click and open in a new tab. But this, the little arrow with a box, will bring you to the title page of that item. So to give you the title, subjects, and a description. So first laws of California. And then to get to the item, you could click on the volume down here. If there is more volumes, it would list all of the volumes there. And then you get to that document view page. So you can also expand here if you wanted to see all of the items that are available if there's more than one volume. You could search within this. So if you had a keyword search you wanted to do of all 2,478 items, you could search up here. What I find though, with a lot of the use cases that people have for how they're searching it, oftentimes they're going to be searching using these categories. Agencies looking for specific types of materials. We get a lot of use of the House and Senate journals because some of those aren't digitized elsewhere. So that is probably one of the areas that's used the most. We also get a decent use of the session laws or sessional laws in Canada. And part of the reason for that is they might be digitized elsewhere, but sometimes they like the user interface better here. Like they prefer the level of OCRing in this space. And of course, you can see here there's a lot of historical items as well. So if we kind of looked at what's available for the different categories, you can kind of see here for agencies, you have Attorney General reports, but you also have some historical agency-related items. So commissioners on the culture of grapevine. So if you're having someone that's looking at historical aspects of wine production or grape, you can have grapes, you can have that kind of stuff. So a lot of historical stuff like that that might not be available elsewhere. Then we have kind of more specifically the Attorney General publications. So then you just have that on its own. Broadsides and pamphlets. So, oh, this is interesting. The Census of New California in Spanish, so those are kind of interesting. So, and some other government documents. So probably some sort of commission and recommendation related to probate law. Oops, I have that broadsides and pamphlets. So that was a little bit of an overlap there. Code, statutes, and laws. So one thing I would say is we have code, statutes, and laws, but a kind of a subcategory of that will be like legislative sessional laws. We're still kind of working through some of those categories and how we want them to appear. So the code, statutes, and laws is kind of the broadest kind of level. But again, you can see we have some of those early historical stuff if somebody's looking at the very early history of California. But then we have some of the compiled laws later on. And then constitutional. You can see what we have. We have a constitution in manuscript form in both English and Spanish from 1849. And you can see those journals again that I discussed. But they also have, some annotated constitutions as well. So there might be some interesting historical materials, and then constitutions of some different tribes. Some of this is available elsewhere, but some of it may be exclusive, have not been digitized before. We've got some executive materials. So inaugural address from 1856, and then again that House and Senate journals, which I think get used pretty frequently across our users, our members from different jurisdictions. And then Indigenous state relations, some different commissioner reports, etc. some journals and newspapers. So this might be of interest. Some of these might be digitized elsewhere. But, and then judicial, you can kind of see the different materials we have with the digest and a California legal record. And then legislative materials. So a lot of House committee or joint committee records. Those look kind of interesting to me, but maybe they wouldn't be kind of very interesting. And we do have some kind of random materials. This is considered reference from California State University. And then the sessional laws, I think, get used fairly often. And then subnational entities. So some San Francisco related stuff, some early Los Angeles ordinances, and then a small number of treatises on specific topics. So, and we could organize those by language or time period as well. One thing that we're working on is sometimes if there might be a date range, let's say 1784 to 1927, is it will not have the individual dates for the different time periods. So if you're organizing it by date, then it might be a little bit difficult, but that is one of the higher priorities of things that we're gonna fix. So the old database was very much based on kind of almost like a library model, and the data as well was like that. So we're kind of going back and retroactively fixing a lot of those things. So we've made incredible progress. And one of the reasons I came and joined LLMC is because I was very impressed by the progress that my colleagues had already made over the last year or so. So that made me very excited about joining. So you can kind of see those materials. One thing I would say is if you're looking at printing or using the materials, so we're back at that title level. If we're clicking into a volume to get to a specific document, right? So we have the thumbnails that you can kind of click through. And you can zoom in, zoom out. With page tags, you can see that if you were looking for page 21, because it has the page tags with acknowledgement and title page, we know that going to the 21 here is going to give us the actual page, which of course would be one that is not very good quality. But one thing I wanted to show is if we go back to a page that is better quality, okay, so if we zoomed in on this, and let's say we're interested in, we know we have some interest in this topic, but we don't know much, we don't speak Spanish. You can use the little scissors here. You can take a screenshot, and then you can choose to either copy and paste, you can get both the text and image here, or you can choose, I gotta get control of my mouse again. Okay, so back to the cutting board, literally. If we copy just the second button will copy only the text. And we can, it says it's copied to the clipboard, and then we could go to Google Translate, and we could detect language. And you can see it's not too bad. You know, this is not, you know, it's pretty good, but it's not super great. And we get a pretty good copy that we can use in Google Translate. And we could look back and probably figure out which part isn't working well. So I find that to be very useful. The other thing I would note is you've got the persistent URLs here. So if you wanted to share this with a colleague, you could click on the share button and share it with them. But you can also download part of the document here, up to 50 pages at a time. And part of the reason we implemented that is because we were having people coming in mass downloading stuff. So if that doesn't mean that you can't do more than that. If you ever have a patron or a user that needs to do more than that and they have like a project based on that, you can reach out to us and ask about that. But that's kind of why that was implemented. So you can save it as a PDF, you can print it, choosing the pages you want. You can email it to somebody, and that email will give you that URL. See, it's already included in the email message to send it to them. You can also add it to a list, so either a new or existing. So let's say I wanted to put it in my favorites, and I could make a note, this is my new favorite. Oh, of course, I couldn't see, so I misspelled it. We can add, and then we can go to my account, and you could see I have my name, username, and I could change the password. You can choose whether you want to save your history or not. So it's nice that you have the possibility to choose how much you want saved or not, so you can turn that on and off. You can also have your private lists, and you can delete, email, rename. So I think I put that under favorites, so I could expand. And I could see probably at the bottom here, I've got this is my new favorite. And then there you can add, edit note, move to another list, remove, or you can click on the page number and go back to the item. So then we're back there again. So I really like the list quite a bit, and it could also be something if you're helping someone with a project or someone else is working on a project that they can keep all of their items in a list, and they could share that whole list with somebody else. Okay, and again, you can see the persistent URL here too. So if you wanted to share something with someone, they're like, hey, how do I get to the US stuff again? You could share this link with them. So, and I want to go back to United States. So I'm at the front page. I'm going to go to the United States and court filings. And then we go to California. And you could either expand and choose which court you want to look at, or you could click the little external button and get the search for all the items. So you could choose the court you want, the type of brief, and a citation if you have it. And the citation, and I'm going to forget for California, but it would be like, I'm just thinking of one I just did recently with New York, and because it's later afternoon here, I'm blanking on the reporters for California. But it would be like, if it was New York, it would be, volume 348 NY2D 472. So the volume number, the reporter abbreviation, and the page number. That would be the docket or citation search. And then you can do full text search as well. Then one other thing I wanted to show is the search and what kind of sorting features you have if you do a search. I'm just going to do, because it's a chilly day outside and it's been in the news a lot, it's a chilly day here. I'm going to search for Greenland. And so you get 7,199 results for Greenland with like 21,000 pages. And what I want to show you here is that in a keyword search, first, you're going to get your search terms showing up in blue. The default search result will be by volume, but you can choose either your search results by page, volume, or title. So if you have a very specific search topic, then you might want to go with page because you kind of see more page by page what your results are and how they're returned. If it's kind of intermediate, then you might want to go with volume because it will give you one result in the title, but you might not be able to see all the results at once. And then title, if you know you want to look for a specific title, then you might want that search. But let's see what it looks like at the page level. So you can see now you're seeing every single page from the 1720 item. Whalebone caught and imported by Greenland. You can also see that there's some material. There's a Greenland town, I think, within New Hampshire. And then you can also go to title. So there's 1,511 titles for Greenland. So, and then you can narrow over here to your jurisdiction and what type of document that you're looking for. But if we are going back to volume, the other thing is you can sort by, the default is a relevance return, but you can search by title A to Z, title Z to A, date oldest first, date newest first. And this one is kind of fun because you kind of see the range of materials that we have. So cases related to whaling, but then taxation, of a town in New Hampshire called Greenland. But then you have UN documents, a digest of international law, and then you kind of have this very broad range of interesting topics, British and foreign state papers, the congressional journals, Bevan's treaties. So it's kind of, it's interesting, I think, a search term just because it gives you a broad range of items. We also have added on the left side here within these topics, you can change, or within these filter facets, you can change how you have your results appear because the default is by number of results, but now you can do A to Z if you wanted to search like that. And the same with the province territory, you could do Z to A and then A to Z, etc. And then the time period by the number of results and etc. So we also, the one thing I would point out is we do have some nice special focus collections. The early state records is by far the most popular one that we have. And if we were to go to California, there's 998. So that's probably going to be a lot of the early items. If you were wanting to share a link to these documents, then you could share the link here. But these facets over here are relatively new. We didn't always have those over here. So that's something to consider with the special focus collection. The other thing about the special focus collection is I think it kind of shows how we work with our members. So the Pacific Studies was a strong collaboration with the University of Hawaii as a member. The current project is the Navajo Nation Department of Water Resources, which is kind of legal adjacent because it's used in legal disputes, but it's not kind of a traditional legal document that you would think of. And that project is being done with the University of Arizona, which is a member in coordination with the Navajo Nation. So you can kind of see how our system works as well. So this is kind of a brief overview. You might have other questions or things that you want me to show, and I'd be happy to do so. The one other thing I would say is we do have some other ongoing relationships with different institutions. So with Library of Congress, we have an agreement with them for legal materials. If they discard legal materials, LLMC has a right of first refusal. So we have a lot of what are called FOGs, or foreign official gazettes, which you can find here. And those are all really very interesting, and I could talk more about those if that's something you're interested in. So I think that is kind of all I have for now, but I can go through any specific questions or examples that you have or are interested in, or review anything as well. Are there any questions?
None so far. Thank you for the presentation, because I have always tried to kind of explore LLMC on my own. And with the new
Mm-hmm.
interface, there are definitely a lot more tools and features that make it easier, especially if I don't have the right keyword or
Mm-hmm.
the right kind of title. I'm able to use a lot of the facets and filters to help myself just like browse and see if I could find it.
Yeah.
So this
And
is
and
amazing.
and the browsing was kind of a traditional strength of the database. Um, and the one thing I would say is, if you really think something is in here or should be in here, you can always reach out to us and be like, is this in there? You know, if you go to any level but the top level, you can get these title lists and you can look. But if there are ever questions about something like that, that's something, please reach out to us. The other thing is, if you ever think something should be in there or prioritized, even if you don't have a copy that you can share with us for digitization, we also encourage you to reach out and be like, this is something that would be really useful, that we haven't seen digitized elsewhere. Like, that's also something that you can reach out to us about, because we want to be kind of working with our members to make the best use. And we're continuously digitizing stuff. So we have over 100 pallets of materials to still digitize. And many of those items are items that have never been digitized elsewhere. So
Okay.
yeah. So I think we might be getting some materials from Central and South America that weren't included before. And we always have new and interesting stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then in terms of keeping up with some of like the items that get added, is there like an alert system that's in LLMC, or do you send newsletters?
We do send out newsletters, and we used to kind of give an update of some of the items that were added, and we're still in the process of determining workflows with the
Hmm.
new database. It's still there's some new steps and new ways of doing things that are going to be coming up probably in the next year. So we actually just talked about the upcoming newsletter today and how we want to highlight different things that are coming. So that's something that I hope we see some development there in the future. Because in the old newsletters, they did do some of that, and we're gonna try to bring some of that back. And some of it is that my colleagues have been doing an incredible amount of work over the last couple of years. And part of it has been like timing and new workflows to kind of get those parts of it out. So it's on our definitely on our radar for like kind of automatic updates of stuff. Uh, and then with newsletters, we're hoping to highlight content in every newsletter coming up. So that's another
Okay.
thing. So yeah, so that was thank you for asking that question, because it's
Yeah.
relevant to discussions we had today. In fact, we had a staff meeting earlier today, and that came up there of and we also have a LinkedIn page, and that might be a place that we will. So we
Of
really
course. Yeah.
appreciate that. Okay, and with that, if there's no, do you have any other questions?
For me, no, I think that's about it. If I
Okay,
have any more specific questions, I will be sure to reach out.